So let's start with Barack Obama, who apparently swung by, he's out on the campaign trail for Kamala, and he swung by a campaign office. Was it in Pennsylvania? That's where he's been, I think. And Pittsburgh. And decides to offer this little, and Barack Obama doesn't do anything unintentionally. So clearly he wanted this to get out there. Decides to offer this little ditty to the black men who are reluctant, according to polls, to vote for Kamala Harris.
Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. When you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more.
Wow. Unbelievable. The not in there, I think, was his line. You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that. Really bold. And I mean, honestly, Mark, pretty offensive stuff. Like, the only reason a black man might not be voting for her is they don't like women. They don't want to vote for a woman.
Well, I think probably we'll all agree that hectoring, lecturing Barack Obama is not the optimal, attractive Barack Obama. But the only thing I'll say about this is a sustained problem. It was a problem for Joe Biden, getting the support of young black men and young Hispanic men also. It's a problem for Kamala Harris that could cost her the election. And the way they've been trying to make these appeals hasn't worked. So does this one seem like it will work? Probably not to anyone here or anyone we know, but it is getting news coverage. It is getting out there that they have a problem. And I think unless somebody can offer up a better solution than this, hectoring, lecturing Obama might be the best they have.
I don't know if that's true, Sean. I mean, we're checking the internet this morning just to see how are black men who are at least on X responding to this. Here's a sampling of what we found.
I don't know about y'all, but I think that my ancestors fought far too hard for my right to vote in this country for me to support someone just because they look like me. Especially when that person who looks like me doesn't give a damn about me. Doesn't create a single job. She is actually probably uniquely terrible at her job.
With like the brothers.
He kind of tugged his own.
With the brothers. We ain't your brother.
In that room, did it seem like he said anything that could get them to change their mind?
Boy, if any black men are at a Kamala Harris rally, their mind is already made up.
Yeah, for real.
Sorry, Obama. I'm a black man, and I'm voting for Donald Trump for president, and there is no amount of lecturing or bullying or shaming that you can do that is going to make me change that decision. I am not afraid to vote for Kamala Harris because she is a woman. I refuse to vote for Kamala Harris because she has spent the last 4 years destroying this country. Maybe the surrogate black dad for a lot of fatherless black boys that are running around this country, but I got a dad. I know who he is, and it ain't you.
I have the nerve to look in the eyes of black men who are out here working their off, grinding, taking care of their families, mature, responsible men, spiritually mature men, handling their business. This man that is worth, some estimates say, of $75 million has then the audacity to tell these same black men that it is unacceptable for you to vote any other way than what I tell you.
Pretty good, especially the last guy there, Sean.
You know, Megyn, since we've been talking, I actually got somebody else who just sent me. It says, it would be a shame if Barry saw this, and it's another clip. Look, I don't know that there's any group of young men, whether it's black men, white men, Asian men, Hispanic men, that want to be lectured by the old guy and say, you're stupid, you're dumb, this is what you should be doing, right? There's no kid that ever wants to be done. These guys have found themselves in a hole, and 25 days out, the solution was to have young people lectured by an old guy. This is a problem of their own making. As Mark said, it stems back to the Biden candidacy. And they should have figured it out a lot quicker. Instead, their heads were in sand, right? They kept saying, it's not a problem. These kids could never vote for Donald Trump. And they failed to recognize the problem that exists. And it's, as Mark noted, it transcends not just black men, young white men, Hispanic men, and I bet you there's Asian men that think the same way too. These guys waited too long. The thing that I think is interesting politically, Kamala Harris went out a couple days ago and did a media blitz, right? And media blitzes are supposed to help you move the needle in your direction. And instead, the answer was, we got the View clip of her saying that she wouldn't do anything different than Obama, and that went viral, and every Republican thanked them for doing this. They send Obama out to do this, to lecture young black men about why they're voting, and it's having the opposite effects. These videos are now popping up all over social media saying, I don't need to be lectured. They're having a boomerang effect with all of their strategies. And to Mark's point, this could be a big problem as we head into Election Day.
Dan, I want to pick up on, we saw our pal Rob Smith in there. He was great. But the guy at the end who I don't know, my apologies, really I think nailed it. You know, there are a lot of people in the country who are drawn to Trump right now, notwithstanding some of Trump's problematic character traits, because they think their lives will improve under him. They think the economy will be better under him, and they have 4 years of experiencing it to inform that opinion. And I do wonder how they're going to react to being called sexists by Barack Obama, who he rightly points out, how many times have we seen him on the yachts of his billionaire Hollywood friends and on his estate in Martha's Vineyard, trying to tisk them into voting for the woman, despite his perception that they're a bunch of misogynists?
Yeah, this is a problem. Campaigning Barack Obama, good. Professor Barack Obama, not good. When he was in the arena later in the day, shirt sleeves rolled up, whipping the crowd into a frenzy, there's few people in the Democratic Party that are better. But he does have this history. You go back to 2008 when he was talking to an audience and trying to explain his struggles in central Pennsylvania. He was talking about people clinging to their guns. And what's I think most kind of bizarre about his statement, there is no qualitative or quantitative research that shows that's why young black men are not voting for Kamala Harris. There is some research that shows that Latina women prefer a strong man and have a problem with a woman, fine. But all the research, and we see it on our show where we've had young black men come on, is that they think the economy would be better under Donald Trump. They're not hearing, they don't trust Kamala Harris. So I don't see, to Mark's point, you're shaking the trees, you're making news, you're forcing to the forefront Kamala Harris has a problem with black men. But Megyn, I agree with you. This is not the way to reach them, to lecture them and tell them, I know better. This is what you should be voting. No one likes to be talked to that way.
Megyn, one other quick
hold
point
on. I got to get back to my yacht. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was going to say, one thing, when we focus group areas where we had problems as a Republican Party 10 years ago, one of the things that we heard among black constituencies was that they didn't feel comfortable voting Republican because they didn't think any of their friends or neighbors or colleagues or whatever were voting, and they didn't want to be an island unto themselves. What's happening now is that more traditional Democratic constituencies feel comfortable voting for Trump and for Republicans because they see that they're not alone. And we're seeing that more and more, whether it's Jewish voters, young voters, Hispanic voters, black voters. They're realizing that they're not alone, and that these fissures that exist within the Democratic Party are becoming a bigger and bigger problem for them. You look at the gap that Kamala Harris has with Asians, with Latinos, with blacks. Yes, she's still ahead 15, 20 points. And as Republicans, I'd like that to be closer. But the reality is she's not even close to the margins that Obama was. Or Biden,
and that's exactly. That's just to put a little meat on that bone. According to the latest CNN poll, well, it was released end of September, but it's the latest on this issue of black voters. She leads Trump by 63 points, which sounds like a lot, but Biden had a 75-point margin among black voters in 2020. And so that's some of what they're up against. Go ahead, Mark.
You know, in an end game of a presidential, you want to put to bed things you can put to bed. States, you want to lock down a state so you don't have to keep spending resources there. You want to lock down certain constituency groups. And the challenge they have is they've tried to lock down this group for a long time. And obviously they're still having to devote resources to it. Pretty soon, you're going to start seeing messaging from the Republicans about Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor. Remember, Donald Trump passed criminal justice reform. Remember that there's a lot of belief that Trump was wrongly prosecuted. This is something that Democrats make fun of, and they say it's racist of Trump to appeal to the black community and Hispanic community to say he's been persecuted and when he was prosecuted. I hear it all the time. It's not a made-up thing. It's not a racist thing. And so Trump is going to stay on offense with messaging with these communities, and she's going to have to keep playing defense, and every resource they spend on that is taking away from other groups. It's a big asymmetrical advantage right now because Trump is playing very little demographic defense. She's playing with Jews, Arab Americans. She's playing with blacks, Hispanics, younger people. It's a lot of defense to be playing with just a couple weeks to go.
This show encourages honest conversations, which is not always easy in today's media environment with big tech companies deciding who and what gets amplified and censored. But there is a new platform that prioritizes free speech and transparency without controlling the narrative, and it's called Ground News. Ground News is an app and a website that aggregates related articles from around the world, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. Ground News reveals for every single story how media narratives are shaping the conversation and who's covering the topic. It makes it easier to navigate the news and may even be helpful to you for the next time your liberal friends send you a headline from their favorite biased news source. They're offering our viewers 40% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and app. Ground News is independent and supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. So check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, GROUND news.com/MEGYN. Groundnews.com/Megyn. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.